Hello, welcome to Giggles and Gratitude. This is Dena.
And this is Tia, and today is October 13th, 2024.
Yes, it is. And Tia, we check our analytics of how we're reaching people, and we have remained on 22 countries out of 195 recognized countries in the world for quite some time. And I'm grateful for every single one of them, but you know me, I want to get all 195. But my gratitude this week, and Tia doesn't know this, is that we have added 2 new countries to our listeners. So that makes 24 listeners. Not 24 listeners, 24 countries. The first one is Albania. Do you know anything about Albania?
Nope.
I didn't either. It's amazing how little I paid attention in school. I mean, especially geography and history. I just had no interest when I was in high school. So Albania is just above Greek. It borders Greece. And I know you have been there like for cruises and things like that. Haven't you been to Greece? It's on the Mediterranean Sea. And then Greece is below it, but they're connected. And Kosovo and North Macedonia. So it's in that area. It looks like it's really a beautiful place, but it's small. It's like less than 3 million people. And they were declared a atheist country for a long time, and then there was a revolution of sorts. I'm probably going to get this wrong. Albanian people listening, I apologize. I'm just kind of paraphrasing. But then when they established a constitution, they allowed for religion in the new country and the new system. And although the majority is Muslim, there are Christians there. It's like 16% Christian, which is pretty good. And they vowed in their constitution and their just agreement with each other and their culture that they would respect each other's religion, which is very rare in the world right now, to get along and to respect it and to honor each other in what they believe. So I think that's a kind of a very important thing, especially right now. And it is a developing country, so there is a lot of poverty, but they are really growing. And since they have their freedoms, in their way, that they are progressing and people are flourishing. So I thought that was very interesting, and I'm very grateful to add that new country. What are your thoughts on that?
I am grateful as well.
Yeah. And they do speak, a lot of people speak English there. It's the second language. It's obviously, if they're listening to us, I don't know if there's some sort of translation thing that happens between us, our podcast, and when it goes to other countries. I guess you could do like closed caption,
right?
Maybe. And there may be a lot of Americans that live there. I don't know, but thank you, Albania, and welcome to our listener family. And we hope that, I don't know if they're listening to Batch Chat or Giggles and Gratitude or what, but hopefully you'll listen to all our episodes there. And we thank you so much. We love you guys. And then we also added Bangladesh. I knew less about Bangladesh than I did Albania. Bangladesh borders India and the Bay of Bengal. And it's it's called People's Republic, Southeast Asia. It's famous for a lot of mosques and monuments. And poverty is a major issue there. But because of clothing, a lot of clothing is there. That's their big industry, and they are growing and developing because of that. So, again, I'm so grateful for Bangladesh. Do you want to welcome Bangladesh, Tia?
Welcome.
I wonder how you say welcome in Bengalese. I don't know. I should have looked that up. I'm not going to play their national anthems or anything like that, so you'll be glad about that. And it made me think about, like people in our churches when they go on mission trips and go to countries that are, they're not fun their accommodations are not good. It's not like you're going on vacation when you do on a mission trip. And I've never had the courage to do missionary work. Have you or anybody ever?
Yeah, I have several friends that have been on missionary trips. No, I have not.
I really admire and respect that, and I don't have the courage to do that or my lifestyle does not allow me to do that at this point, but it's something. So I started thinking, if people are listening to our Giggles and Gratitude episodes, our devotions, and our thoughts, the people that inspire us in the Christian world, are we doing mission work in a way? Would this be considered, or am I overblowing maybe what is happening here? How do you feel?
Well, no, I just think if we say something that may touch someone, then that is totally being missionaries and doing God's work, for sure.
That's good. That's good. So that is a blessing. So we are both grateful for that. And we also charted for the first time in Hong Kong. Charting means you're in the top 200 according to Apple charts. And we were number 37 in entertainment news. So that's not too shabby.
No.
So we're grateful for that too. And thank you, the people of Hong Kong that are listening. We don't talk too much about current events because we want people to be able to find us later on. Because our shows will be up, I guess, for as long as the internet exists, our shows will be up and people could discover us. So we don't try to talk about too much of the current news. We do talk about what's going on in our lives currently, but I feel like it's just so awful and so prevalent on the news, and family and friends in my life are affected, and it's been all around us. We've been fortunate to be spared, but it's just all around us, is the effects of Hurricane Helene. And by the time you listen to this, there may be Milton doing some damage. So I personally just want to say I've praying for them. I think about the realities and I see the videos, and it's just too much to comprehend. And even watching the videos, I know if we were dropped down in the middle of that to see it, we still wouldn't have comprehended what has happened. There's something about water rushing through a mountain area that is just so wrong and so outrageous and upside down. It's just horrific. And our church, and I'm sure your church too, Tia, has been taking up donations. So I've done that. I just feel helpless. I feel hopeless and helpless. And how do you feel? What do you do in a situation like this?
My husband and I tried to give water at a center or whatever they needed, and we couldn't find water. Every place was sold out. So we just gave money to the Red Cross.
Yeah, that's about all you can do at this point. Yeah, the shelves are empty for sure. Hopefully they'll be replenishing, but I'd say we'll all feel effects of this. If you're just talking about inconveniences, the grocery store shelves will be affected for a long time because of this, because we don't think about what truckers do. And I have driven that road a lot. I have relatives in North Carolina that I used to go visit a lot, and it's a treacherous road kind of anyway, that mountain road to North Carolina. Just to think about it washed out and what it's going to be like, and probably not until like spring of next year? Is it 2025 or 2026? It's going to be a long time before.
Yeah, it's going to be, because they're always doing construction on that road. So
yeah, it's going to be impossible to get through those roads for a long, long time. And you don't even think about not just the loss of life, but the things that will affect you financially, rebuilding, insurance. Does somebody that lives in a mountain have flood insurance? Probably not.
I don't know.
So we're thinking about all you guys, and I know we're not even imagining how bad it is, but we hope you guys are reaching out in prayer and to God for your strength and your comfort, because that's really all you can do. And people who don't have God in their lives, I don't know how they get through a disaster like this.
I don't either.
Maybe it will bring, if you want to try to find a blessing or bright side, it will bring people to God, you know. I haven't talked to you in a long time, God, but I'm really needing you now. So we have talked about that before, how tragedy and misfortune will bring you closer to God, hopefully. All right, Tia, I want to talk about one more little thing, and then I'm going to take it over to you. You have your 4th installment of What Happens Next. See how I remembered that?
5th.
5th installment.
Yes.
What Happens Next. And there's going to be a total of 6?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That is Tia's sharing of a tidbit, a recap of Max Lucado's new book, or his latest book. I don't know how new it is. That's pretty new.
It's the latest book.
The latest
Yes.
book, yeah. About,
what happens next?
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. Very good. Very informative. So, Tia, I want to be careful what I say here, but this was a big part of my week. Losing someone from church. They did not pass, but they stepped down. And it really affected me hurt my heart, and I'm going to miss them, but it also inconvenienced me, I guess would be the word to say. It's affected my serving, and it was unexpected, and it made me think about church. What is church? Church is technically, literally, a building with people in it, if you want to take the literal definition. And when you got a building with people in it, you're going to have problems. You're going to have drama, and people are going to leave, people are going to argue. People are just people. And I've heard people say, you know, I love God, or I'm religious, but I don't go to church. And I'm not here to preach to you about going to church. I'm just telling my experience and leave it here for what it's worth. I went to church when I was young, a child, and probably up until about 10, and then we stopped going to church. We left the church we were at and just never went back to another church. But I did have established that foundation that stuck with me that I needed. I would go with a friend to Bible school sometimes, and vacation Bible school, and go to other people's churches, and never stop being a believer, never stop praying. When I was in high school, I started going to church with a guy I was seeing, and I loved the people there, I loved the church. The relationship was terrible, but I did get saved there, so I'm so grateful for that, and baptized and joined the church. Then I met someone, I got married, and I strayed from the church, traditional church, but I still believed. And I can remember very specifically, we bought a house, and our neighbors were so sweet, and she came out. I was washing the windows and outside, and she came out and said, I'm just wanted to welcome you to the neighborhood, and I wanted to invite you to go to our church. It's called this. Anytime you want to go, you can go with us, you can follow us, or we can just sit with you. And I said to her, I thought, oh no, oh brother. And I said to her, I believe in God, we both believe in God, but we don't go to church. But thank you, if I ever want to, I will. And I had no qualms about saying that. I felt Lord, I hope she doesn't pressure me into going to church. Because we shared a driveway. The house we bought, they built at the same time with their friends. They used the same supplies, the same we shared a driveway, we shared a well. So they were used to being so close to their neighbors. And they turned out to be a blessing. But that's what I said to her. She said, okay, I understand, but you're always welcome. She turned around and she walked off.
That was very sweet.
Exactly. And she could have reacted negatively to that. She could have said, well, you need to go to church. You're going to go to the house, Or she could have stopped hanging out with us, and she didn't. She always invited us and included us, and she's very, very sweet people. But that stuck out to me that when I said it out loud to her, I thought, does that even make sense, what you just said, Dena? I love God, I believe in God, but I don't go to church. I haven't found a church that I want. I used to go to, I just said I don't go to church because I wanted to nip that in the bud. Going ahead very, very many years, I was divorced, and my sister invited me to go to her church, and I said yes, and I haven't looked back. I love the church, I love the people. As you know, I volunteer in the kids department, and everything was going swimmingly. And I don't want to share the drama because it's her story to tell, not mine. But someone very close to me that I need in that every Sunday to do what I do is gone. And I agree with her decision, although selfishly I didn't want her to do that. So that made me think about how people quit churches for various reasons, how they get annoyed and it turns into people problems and drama problems. The more people you have in your life, the more drama you're going to have. Is it worth it? That's what you have to decide. But people have problems. People have failures. People have issues. So I started kind of trying to reconcile this in my head. And Girl Talk Apologetics, who I follow on Instagram, they put, people argue the idea of church isn't even biblical. So they're like, I don't need church. I believe in God. I don't need to go to a building and have all that to prove that I love God or to go to heaven, And again, I'm not preaching to anyone about this. This is just, like I say, I'm sharing. So they say, so let's start with the basics. First, if you're a Christian, church is not something that you go to. It's something that you are. You can't disassociate from the church as a Christian any more than you can disassociate from humanity because you're a person. You don't go to church, you are the church. Second, the church was not a human invention. Half reading the New Testament with one eye closed will still lead you to the inescapable conclusion that the church was God's idea. In fact, most of the New Testament is not about the teachings of Jesus. It's about the work of the church that Jesus initiated and ordained. You'd have to get rid of the majority of the New Testament to argue that the church was a parenthetical, made-up organization. If you want to get rid of the church, you also need to get rid of Jesus. Now, this is these people's opinion that I'm reading. You can't have one without the other. I understand that the idea of church being imperfect makes some people despair. But rather than making us despair, the fact that Jesus started the church with imperfect people should make us marvel at God's incredible grace. For sure, community is messy. People sin. Leaders are sinful. Most of the New Testament is not a story of an idealized church where everything worked perfectly all the time. Just read 1 Corinthians anytime you're frustrated with your church. Most of the New Testament is a story of Jesus using his followers to spread his love in spite of themselves, and as they overcome obstacle after obstacle. The fact that Christ uses flawed people to accomplish his work on earth is actually a sign of his grace, not a sign of his absence. The church's story, as twisted as it gets at times, is a beautiful story of God's grace, God's power, and God's redemption. So, by the way, is your life, which reflects the story of the church more than you might want to admit. The church gives the world a front row seat to the grace of God, and that is from A Response to Christians Who Are Done with Church by Carrie Nieuwhof, Nieuwhof, and I'll include a link to all that. So that, between what happened at our church and the inconvenience it's causing me, and then churches collecting and being the ones that are showing up to help people in this hurricane aftermath with the supplies, risking their time, their lives, their money to make it happen, when maybe some people will feel the government's failing. That's a whole political discussion we won't get into. But I felt it was all kind of tying together to help me understand the importance of the church, even though there's always going to be changes. People are going to come, people are going to go, people are going to disappoint you. There's going to be anger, there's going to be tears, there's going to be drama, there's going to be sin, and there's going to be growth, and you may have to change a church, but it all helped me to realize the importance of the church in my life. The church is the body of Christ. Mm-hmm. If you start chopping off pieces of a body, you're not going to survive. So you have to adapt and forgive, show grace, pray for guidance as things change. So that's all the drama that's on me right now. I don't know what your church experience is exactly. Do you want to share how you feel about that?
I go to church because it nourishes my soul, and it's fellowship, it's community, and that's where I get like my yum for the week. And I think that everybody needs to be a part of some kind of community, because just like everything that's happening, your community is who steps up and gets involved and helps.
Right.
So,
right. And you've had to change churches in your life because of various reasons, right?
Yes.
So you can go ahead. I'm sorry.
We recently did, because we were not getting, my husband and myself both, we were going to church and listening, and we weren't getting anything out of it. So we found a church now that is just wonderful, and we both get in the car and we're like da-da-da-da-da-da, and we'll even talk about it during the week. So,
oh, that's great. Yeah, if you're not looking forward to going to your church, you may need to shop around to find one, because different people want different things. I have a very good friend who went to my church and shocked me one day to say, "Dena, I'm changing churches." I was like, what? And she said, the style of preaching is not for me. Mm-hmm. She wanted a more traditional approach from the Bible from beginning to end, where I enjoy more a teaching, like, today we're going to learn about this in your life. And then they refer back to the scripture. I prefer it. It just is a better style for me. Like a going to college, going to school that day. So I prefer that. So, I think you can shop around. The reason why I think it's so important, the statistics on church going and the life of the church, it's estimated that 40 million people, 1 in 8 Americans, stopped going to church in the past 25 years, making it the largest concentrated change in church attendance in American history. And I'll include that statistic there on that. That is frightening to me. And I feel like it's reflected maybe in the culture and the way things are going. Do you think there's a correlation there?
Oh, there's a total correlation with Max.
With what?
With
With Max's opinion,
Mm-hmm.
Max Lucado. It says, how often should we go to church? 100 years ago, people might have answered, whenever the church is open. There was a time when going to church was a luxury, a privilege, because you couldn't find a church. If you go way back when people walked around, they had to find, if they could find a preacher preaching, they would stop and be so grateful that there was some way to worship. There's people who have worshiped in hiding because they're fear of being persecuted, being killed. It's forbidden. It's still forbidden in so many places. So then 50 years ago, the answer might have been Sunday and Wednesdays. Today, the answer for as many is, well, when I get a chance, I go. When I'm not doing something else, I go. When my kid doesn't have a soccer game, I go, or whatever. Our culture has gradually diminished the importance of rest and religious activity to the point that it's now rare to find people who try to be at church consistently through the year. Each person has expectations that are informed by their family, work, friends, and recreation. As Christians, we need to constantly seek to inform our decision from God's Word, and that is the goal. And what does the Bible say about going to church? I always like to back up my opinion. I don't come up with my opinion by myself and talk about it here unless I've got some backup. Hebrews 10:24-25, and let us consider how to stir up one another to love and do good works, not neglecting to meet together, is in a habit, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day drawing near. We know this passage was written very early in the history of the church. This is helpful to realize because it means the churches have always needed to encourage people and prioritize coming together to worship. Hebrews 10:24 gives the right perspective for church attendance. The goal of going to church is not to see what you can get out of it. The proper mindset is to see how you can serve others. We're supposed to gather in order to stir up one another to love and do good works. This is not a legalistic mentality that thinks of church as an item that needs to be crossed off a monthly list. A biblical understanding of church life is one that seeks to live for the glory of God every day of the rest of the week. So the Bible does say don't neglect to come together in habit to worship together and do what you can do. So, and once again, I went for years without going to church, but I am so much more close to God when I go to church. Whether I get the sermon that day or not, or I have a bad day that day, it's a wonderful habit that you become part of the body of Christ by going to church. So
Right.
I would just say consider it. Some people, cannot go to church because they're physically unable. There are many services online on YouTube. That's great. That's great. I have to utilize that sometimes too. So anyway, that's my thoughts. I'm trying to get through my drama and understand that that's just part of being involved with a group of people. So that's all I have to you.
Okay.
Pray for me.
Wow.
Pray for me in our church.
Okay, well, do you want me to just do the fifth thing on Max Lucado?
Whatever you want to do.
Okay, well, last time we left off, it was the destination wedding. And now this part 5 is God will have his garden. So here, I'm going to freak you for what you just said.
Oh, no.
Jesus has become more and more unwelcome in our world today, especially in many Western societies. According to one survey, the percentage of those in America who call themselves Christians has declined from 90% in 1972 to 64% today.
Whoa.
What are some ways that you have seen culture pressure you to think less of Jesus and even reject him? People want the benefits of Jesus. They want kindness, inclusion, forgiveness. They want the blessings of Christ's kingdom. But a king, an absolute authority, one who has the final say on our lives, that's another matter. Christ, in other words, is rarely consulted. His words are irrelevant to most people. Jesus is unheard in our homes, schools, and even churches. As it stands, our world is a kingless kingdom. This world is so upside down that it will become right side up. People who were rejected in this life will be respected in the next. In this age, they were enslaved and sold. In the next, they will rule and reign. In this age, they were handicapped and sick. In the next, they will serve and be perfected in glorified bodies. Billions have been victims of cruel tyrants. In the next age, they themselves will rule with righteousness. In this life, they were aborted and discarded, considered an inconvenience. In the next, they will be rewarded and consulted. They will serve in the presence of Jesus. So this is during the tribulation. This is when Jesus comes back to earth with all of us, and we will stay in the earth, in a glorified earth, for 1,000,000 years, and Satan will be out of it. So hang on until session 6.
Okay.
And then we'll get it.
Well, it's interesting because that did tie into so much of what I was saying, because I had a lot more statistics. I just didn't want to spout them all off, but they're not good. They're not good. And I feel like it's going in a direction, I don't mean to be a doomsdayer, but it's going in a direction that it's going to get scary to go to church. It's going to get dangerous to go to church. I hope I'm wrong, but I kind of feel that trend going.
I think actually we're going to have a revival.
Do you?
Yes, I do.
Well, that would be great. So before all this happens, you feel there's going to be another surge?
I do.
And what are you basing that on? Just an instinct or study or what?
Because I think there's so many people out there, especially the youngest generation. I don't know what they're called, Gen Z.
I've lost track. But
Okay. Well, they're looking for answers, and I think they're going to be our next biggest movement, like a Jesus movement.
I hope you're right. You know, things go in cycles like that, and hopefully we're going to come back up around again. I hope. I really hope, because that many more people will be saved than have a chance. But I just think when that alarm goes off sometimes on a Sunday morning, and I know what I'm going to face sometimes with certain things, I'll try to remember how there are people who would love to be able to go to a place to worship fearlessly, or even have a place to go, to have a Bible to read, and to be able to read it, and to, I mean, we're able to just sing out, raise our arms and sing out with no fear right now. And if you're not taking advantage of that, I'd love if you could maybe reevaluate it and maybe find one that works for you. Test it online. You can listen to local ones online and see which one you really like. And then when horrible things happen, like the hurricane happened, there's something you can do. You don't feel as helpless.
Right.
There's a community that you can outreach. You can do good things too without going to church, but that community makes it so more powerful, more rewarding, I think, and a bigger punch when you've got like a group of church people.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, Tia, do you have any cool thoughts that you came across or sayings this week?
What you said, I forgot what part it was in, but this reminded me of it.
Okay.
Sometimes your medicine bottle has on it, shake well before using. This is what God has to do with some of his people. Shake them well before they are ever usable. That's from Vance Havner.
So maybe we're all being shook at my turn.
Well, it made you do your research, right?
True.
And because you felt like you were just, like the world had come out from the bottom of your feet. And it really didn't.
Right.
Because then you researched, and then it made you feel better, right?
Maybe appreciate that I can still go to the church.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll get through this patch, and it'll be okay.
True.
life is ever changing.
Yes.
People are always moving and leaving and coming and going, and it's just, I'm not good at it. I'm not good at change.
Everything we have is on loan from the Lord, entrusted to us for just a while. John MacArthur. And the other one, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. That's Martin Luther King.
Definitely. The one before that, would you say one again for me?
Everything we have is on loan from the Lord, entrusted to us for just a while.
Right.
We don't own anything. Period.
Right. We think we do.
Well, we don't. I mean...
So everything's temporary, Everything's like, they say you can't take it with you when you go.
Exactly. And that you can't. Have you ever seen a U-Haul behind a hearse?
No. I guess you could build a big enough grave and throw it all in, but you're not going to be able to use it.
No, you won't. And then my last one was, nobody can call himself a Christian who does not worship Jesus. And that's by John R.W. Scott.
Yeah. And that on the surface is, well, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't believe in Christ, how can you be a Christian? But what does worship Jesus
mean?
Yeah. And I think you have churches now that are feel-good churches that don't worry about that. Just worry about this. We don't want to scare you off.
And because they're more interested in numbers than they are in feeding the sheep in the church.
Yeah. And maybe you could use that to make everyone feel welcome, but you've got to give that message at some point in time. The truth has got to be told.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm feeling a little better.
To what?
I'm feeling a little better about my situation.
Good.
And I think we'll be okay. We'll be okay.
Well, do you not think someone else will step in and...
Yeah, but it'll be different.
Okay.
It'll be different.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
No, I mean, I really am sorry.
Yeah. It's interesting how that tied together with what you had to say about Max. That seems to happen a lot around here. So last week we talked about God talking to us. We received a nice message from someone that said, sometimes I feel like God is talking to me through your podcast. So that's, wow. That again.
That's huge.
It really is. All right. Well, do you have anything else?
I do not.
Okay, we want to have time for Tia time. And again, I want to thank Albanians, Bangladeshians, people from Hong Kong, and all around the world, and in the United States, of course, that you're listening to us. And we hope we are bringing you some fun and some insight and some inspiration and some peace.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I love you, Tia.
I love you, and thank you all so very much for listening.
Yes. And Tia time is next. Bye.
Bye-bye. Hello, and welcome to Tia Time. Today's Tia Time was taken from YouVersion, and it's entitled The Path to Success. There are many definitions for success in today's culture. For some, success is defined by the number of accomplishments we've made or the number of possessions we've obtained. Jesus' definition of success is countercultural. It has nothing to do with your accomplishments or your possessions. It has everything to do with your character. Jesus' teaching in Luke 16:10 is primarily about the content of our character. He says that those who are trusted with small things will be entrusted with larger things. Those who are faithful with what they've been given will be given the opportunity to be faithful over more. And those who are dishonest, unfaithful, and untrustworthy will do the same with what they are given. It's not ultimately important to Jesus whether we are financially successful in life. What's important is what we do with what we've already been given. Little acts of faithfulness every day is how our character is shaped over time. The small decisions and the hard decisions are what create us into the people of trust and honesty. If you're asking God for more in life, make sure that you're being faithful with the things He has already given you. Use the resources and opportunities you have to build trust and honesty with other people. God is looking to use people of character. Pray for God to increase your character and to give you the opportunities to become a person who is faithful and honest in every area of your life. I kind of struggled with that one today. I don't know. But anyway, what it's saying is exactly what is true in life. We should be faithful in over everything that God has already given us, because everything we own is His and has come from Him. And so maybe that's good food for thought for this week. I hope everybody has a blessed week.